Hello, I'm Michael. I'm a small business owner, improv artist, mental health surviving, an actor that doesn't get paid, and as always, I'm very, very neurotic. Most of all, I'm a TV host and your host for what we call the Second Scene podcast. It is a Dweebs Global production where you can go for free mentorship help. That's why we do this podcast for dweebsglobal.org. They have people there to help you around the world, everything from resume writing to mental health, dweebsglobal.org. So I'm here today with RJ Post. RJ has worked as a newspaperman, spending 31 years as a reporter and working for newspapers. He has also been a copywriter, still is a copywriter, digital content creator, marketing, you name it, he's done it. He's used his creative juices to do it all. Super fun guy. He's done everything from writing TV commercials to website copy, limericks, scavenger hunt clues, and everything in between. And he's also an author of 2 very fun books. So please welcome RJ Post.
It's good to be with you.
Good to have you. So welcome to the show. I wanted to ask you about being a newspaperman, which, by the way, is that one word? Because nothing's correcting me when I type it. I always feel like
Let's see, give that to me again.
Newspaperman.
Oh, a newsman or a newspaperman.
Newspaperman.
Whatever you prefer. I guess I prefer newspaperman because I did all my time, if you will, in the print version, as opposed to TV or broadcast radio, whatever. But
right.
I worked for newspapers, community newspapers, for 31 years. Couple of them down in Kansas and then up here in Nebraska for, about 25 years.
Oh yeah, that's a long time for anyone to stick with any job. So I'm guessing I'm guessing you enjoyed it.
I did. I enjoyed it a lot. As a matter of fact, I refer to the newspaper business now as my crazy ex-girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
You've heard about. Well, to be fair, I'm sure there are guys too, but girls that are on the crazy hot scale.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of that?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So the newspaper business, she was pretty hot, but she was kind of crazy too, So you get to a certain age where another metaphor I've used, it's like driving an Indy car. Not that I've ever driven an Indy car, but those guys are going around the track and they've got a hold of that wheel and just one tiny little millimeter the wrong way or the other, and they're going to go crashing into the wall and breaking into 1,000 pieces. And that's kind of what being a newspaper editor is like.
Really? It sounds a lot more exciting than what I think people normally picture.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But eventually you get to the place, and certainly there are guys and ladies too, who were in the business longer than I was. But you get to the place where you think to yourself, I'm not as young as I used to be. This is I've got one nerve left, and this is getting on it.
Well, what was your typical day? What's the typical day of a 1990s newsman?
Well, in the last job I was in, I was assistant managing editor. So I would get to work, say, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes I might not go home till about 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
After a while, my kind coworkers, started throwing me out of there, And I had this one reporter that worked for me, and she would sometimes call up, after she'd gone home. And if I answered the phone, she'd say, "What are you doing there? Go home."
You're a little too addicted to the news story you were.
Well, in that job, I did a lot of different things. I was supervising reporters and working with photographers, and I was doing a lot of planning of news coverage, keeping track of all the things that were going to be coming up and making sure we had somebody at everything. And then, responding to things that were on the police scanner, trying to find somebody to go out and cover that, or sometimes things coming in over the phone, taking them myself and writing them up. And then I had meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning with the reporters and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon with the other editors. I had a news budget I had to prepare every day, so I had to get that done. When my kids were younger, I was cutting out around 3:30 to go pick them up from school, drop them home, rushing back to the office to do the 4 o'clock meeting.
Whew.
And then in between there and afterwards, doing a lot of copy editing. So that things would be ready for the other editors to put on the pages and push out the door. So, and then, obviously the last 5 or 10 years, and we started getting into the internet as well. So it was a lot of little short reports during the course of the day to prepare or edit and get them over to the internet people, and they'd be putting them up on Facebook and our website and everything else. So it's pretty much a nonstop thing. It's going from the time you come in the morning till, you might be walking out the door and you hear your phone ringing.
Right. Do you remember when the transition, like, do you have a recollection of what it was like when the transition to digital started to happen? Like what the feelings were in the office, what the feelings were for the news people? And
well, I do remember at one of my previous papers I worked at in Kansas, I used to be a fan of this show on PBS called The Computer Chronicles. I was home one Saturday afternoon watching that, and they were interviewing this fellow from the San Jose Mercury News, who were real pioneers in going digital with news. And first newspaper I ever heard of that had a website. And I thought, wow, this is really good stuff. We can, write a story as long as we want. There's always more room on the internet. If
right.
The president gives a speech or the mayor gives a speech, we can put the whole darn thing up there.
Oh, people have so much patience. They'll just read read forever. We didn't do
well,
that.
And that we can be updating stories all the time, giving fresh news. That paper was on a PM publication cycle. So, we put the paper out at about noon. Well, if something happened later in the day, we could update that story.
Right.
And I thought this was a great idea. And I went back to the office on Monday and I talked to the publisher and I said, oh, this is great. We need to do this. We need to have a website. And he had this idea that would be a way for people to hack into our computer system and plant false news.
Okay, he was a little
I got to give him credit for that. He was years ahead of the fake news trend, but he just didn't see it, But I do remember the next paper I went to. We did start our own website, and it was crude at first, but we were posting things and whatnot. I do remember that when we first started putting things on the web, the reporters didn't want their photos to accompany their stories.
Really?
Yeah.
Nervous
some
of
of them
backlash,
thought,
people finding them? Or?
Yes, that's what they were worried about. I think they were worried about somebody getting angry about something they wrote and, accosting them in the grocery store or whatever. And I said, well, the TV people, they don't have a problem with it. They're on television talking all the time. Right. They don't seem to have a problem. They seem to live with it. And but they were just really against the idea. But eventually we did wind up putting their names, attaching their, they always had their names, but attaching their photos to their stories too. And people seemed to appreciate it. It gave them a better idea of who was actually doing this news gathering for them.
Yeah, it made them personable. And I'm surprised. It's a rarity you hear of people not wanting to get all the attention that they could possibly get. So even being the person getting the news.
Well, newspaper people are a little bit different breed.
Hiding behind print, huh?
I suppose you could say that, but I don't know. Perhaps they thought that was too showy.
Yeah.
They thought it might make them seem less objective. I don't know. Got you.
There's always been something. With print news where it's more respectable and something of a higher level. I know my roommate in New York worked for the New York Times, and it was always, it was always a prestige to be in print and to have what you wrote in print. And
well, not to take anything away from our colleagues in broadcast, but especially in a smaller market, they were a lot of times following us. They were waiting for us to cover a story and get it out there before they actually picked up on it. And depending on some markets, there were some that, picked up on it a little too literally, but didn't really have that problem around here.
That's wild, because they're the news and they're going on in the afternoon, especially before you had the internet at the time. You think that they would be the ones finding the stories first, since stories do happen throughout the day.
Well, one thing I can say there is that generally we folks in print had a big advantage over them in terms of, numbers.
Oh, yeah.
We might have, half a dozen people that we had out covering news during the day, where they might have one or two. So they were a lot more strapped for time. It wasn't unusual to go out and cover a story and see a TV reporter there, and boom, they've got to get it, and then they've got to hit 3 more things on their way back to the station. That was just the environment they lived in. It was a tough job for them.
I wonder why. Is it financial reasons behind that, or?
I think that's strictly it. Yes.
Yeah. Because they had to have so much more equipment, or was the news channels not even making as much money as the newspapers were at the time?
Well, it's a different business model. Certainly, I mean, things are so different today, but back in the day, radio or television station, I mean, pretty much gives its product away for free.
Right.
You turn on the TV, you turn on the radio, and it just flows out. They sell advertising, of course, but we sold advertising in print also, but then we also had revenue from subscriptions too. Mm-hmm. So, and of course the pricing is, completely different. You're paying for different things. One thing with a newspaper ad, you buy, let's say, a full page ad in a newspaper, it's still going to be there tomorrow, and it's still going to be there the next day. People think, well, I saw that ad for Michael's show. Where was that? And they go and they pick it up and they leaf through it, and there it is. Whereas if you hear it on the radio, it's here and gone.
Gotcha.
If you didn't catch it, you didn't catch it. You'll have to wait and see if you hear it again. So they're different products, different pricing structure, that sort of thing. But traditionally, newspapers always had more people to cover the news than radio and TV did. But not so much that way anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't have that type of advertising anymore for the most part then. Because there's nowhere you see an ad and you can't flip back through even a web page. It's not going to be the same ad there when you go back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Mm-hmm. And, because of the internet, because of going digital, there are a lot fewer people that are turning to newspapers for their news. So there's less revenue. They just can't afford to employ as many people as they used to.
Right. What were some of the... How did you choose what the most important stories were in the paper and the order in which they were listed?
Well, practically speaking, most newspapers would do this. We, depending on the size, of course, but we would do what we call a budget meeting every day, or on some places they would call it the 1A meeting. We did ours about 4:00, and usually the managing editor would run that meeting, and as the assistant managing editor, I would be there to talk about the local coverage we had for that day, local in our area, the things we covered with our own staff. And there would be other editors there that were going to be laying out different sections of the paper. And one might talk about what state news was available and what national news was available. Someone from sports would talk about what was on their budget for the day. And we would make recommendations of things, I would recommend things for the front page, for front of the local section, that sort of thing. And then and the other editors would pitch stories that they thought were important. And then the managing editor would usually make the choice of what was going to go on the front page.
Okay.
Usually we'd have a photographer there, chief photographer, if he was available, would show the different photos we'd taken locally. And frequently that would have something to do with it too. If you had a particularly good picture, you'd want to get that out front. And if there was, a story that went with it, you'd get the story out front, that kind of thing. So, that's the technical explanation. But why you decide to pick something for the front page would be, a variety of factors. What makes it newsworthy? And certainly one of the things that makes a story newsworthy is proximity. So the more local a story is, the more newsworthy it is. Timeliness,
Gotcha.
That's something. And of course, the number of people it's going to impact. So, State of the Union address, that's not happening in your own community, but it's, what the president does is going to affect a lot of people. That makes it more newsworthy.
All right. It all makes sense. What are some news stories you remember, or what are some news stories you remember getting flack back for? I'm sure that you guys had mailboxes full of letters from wonderfully angry readers.
I tell you, what I thought was a fun and interesting story about a house in our town that had kind of an elaborate Halloween display. Mm-hmm. Okay? Decorations out in the yard, that sort of thing. Not real scary, just kind of an elaborate Halloween display. And I had set up for the Sunday reporter to go over and talk to these folks because, Sundays were frequently slow news days. And she and the photographer went out there and talked to the folks, nice little, what we call light and bright, mm-hmm. and come back with some pictures of their elaborate, spooky yard display. And it was on the front page of Monday's paper, which is not, one of the most heavily read days of the week anyway. This woman called me up, and she told me that I was personally, leading all the children of central Nebraska to hell.
That was
because of that story.
Wow, it's a big take from it.
Well,
it's a big take.
I don't know. I suppose maybe I should have been honored. She was really, she was really assuming a lot of authority and power on my part that I didn't really have. But that was one. I can remember we did a series. I don't remember what the series in its entirety was about, but one of the stories in the series was about a teenage girl at the high school that was a teenage mother, and took her baby to school with her, and they had some daycare facilities there with her and for the kids and that sort of thing. And we got some backlash for that. People felt like we were encouraging teenagers to go out and get pregnant.
Oh yeah.
That kind of thing.
Right.
One thing I can remember that we had questions about, much more serious matter, in Oklahoma City when that bombing happened. Mm-hmm. And we had a rule at our newspaper that we did not show pictures of dead bodies. Okay?
Right.
And there was a very iconic photo of a fireman cradling this child, that really summed up the way everybody felt. And I don't recall at the time whether we knew that the child in the photo was deceased. But knowing that was a possibility, we went ahead with the photo anyway because we felt like it was much too important to stand by that rule. Right. And this photo was the one that really summed up how everyone in the country was feeling.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure we probably got a call or two about that.
Yeah.
But, you get calls about crazy things, too. A picture of a child doing some sort of arts and crafts thing with a bottle at some sort of summer camp, and somebody calls up and they're upset because, well, that looks like a beer bottle. I think you're encouraging children to drink alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that. You're never going to make everybody happy.
No, I mean, there's somebody to complain about everything. There really does feel that way
sometimes. It's their heart
sometimes.
going in the morning.
Right. Just, what am I going to find today that's going to piss me off?
I would sometimes get these phone calls, and I'd be on the phone a long time, and people could hear my side of the conversation. It was almost like one of those old Bob Newhart routines. Yeah. And the phone call would drag on for a while, and people would sort of be guessing, what is he talking to that person about? And I would get off the phone and one of our reporters would say, "Oh, another satisfied customer."
Yeah.
They got up in the morning, they looked in the paper, they found something to get upset about, got their heart running, They're another satisfied customer.
And you had to take the call, so you couldn't send a voicemail? Was there not voicemail back then? It didn't.
Oh, we had voicemail, but if the phone rang at your desk, you picked it up. That was just the thing. You picked it up.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you guys had a good time, though. It sounds like overall it kept you moving. Time probably flew by, and a lot of camaraderie there.
Yeah, definitely. I worked with a lot of great people over the years at the various different papers I worked with, and helped a lot of young reporters come along. And we usually had college interns over the summer and helped them get going along on their career. There's one of them that works for public radio here in Nebraska, and sometimes I'm in the morning, I'm getting ready for work, and I hear her come on the radio, and I think, good job, Elizabeth. She's out there doing it. I'm glad to hear her doing it.
Nice. Well, at some point you decided that you had enough of the news business and you got into copywriting.
I did. I got into marketing. I worked for a full service marketing agency about 20, 25 miles away from where I live. So I commute back and forth there every day and do a wide variety of things for them. Everything from television spots, radio spots, a lot of website copy, a lot of magazine copy. Let's see, brochures, all kinds of things. We do annual reports for nonprofits. I've been asked to do things like write names and descriptions for dishes on a menu for somebody's birthday. Been asked to write limericks, been asked to write scavenger hunt clues, all kinds of stuff.
Okay. So it sounds like this really brought out your creative side. I guess in the newspaper business, I guess you use your creative side as well, but I wouldn't imagine nearly as much as you do in the marketing.
Well, yeah, you use it in a different way, obviously. Yeah. And there's a lot more room, I would say, in marketing for doing a lot of different things that allow you to push the envelope or use different muscles, do different creative muscles.
Right. Are there any advertising campaigns you can think of that were exceptionally fun to produce and put out?
Fun as far as challenging goes. We have a client that puts out a catalog, about a 150-page catalog. And one summer I rewrote most of the copy for that from front to back. That was an interesting challenge. I don't know if necessarily it was fun. On occasion, we've done things like go out with a videographer and do interviews for videos for a client that maybe is doing a fundraising campaign or what have you, and go out and interview the person and then come back, take the raw video, pick out the quotes, write a script, build a script around it, and then somebody else will cut all that together and we'll make a video for somebody. That's I always enjoyed doing that. It made me feel like David Frost.
Yeah.
Sitting there interviewing those people. That's a little bit like newspaper days. We used to do a business section every week, and I went out to one of the small towns in our coverage area, maybe an hour or so away from our office. And this fellow had lived out in L.A. or something, come back home and started this business. And so he says, this was Thursday afternoon. And he says, so when is this going to be in the paper? And I said, Sunday. He said, you what Sunday? I said, oh, this Sunday. He couldn't believe we could turn it around that fast.
What did he expect this to be, like a month-long process to get it?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
You're making me.
But I think I went back to the office. I wrote the story before I went home that night. Next day, the business page editor was putting the page together. It was in the paper Sunday.
Nice.
It's kind of fun turning things around like that.
Yeah, people aren't used to that. People are used to slow grind and things really taking a time. You're making me miss the marketing days. I used to have a marketing company in New York, and you're making me really miss the creativity that went behind that, and sometimes the fast pace. I mean, once you get a client that wants something done, they want it done now, and just getting together. I used to love our meetings that we would get together. We'd go on like retreats to come up with the marketing plan for the customer.
Oh, uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just the brainstorming sessions.
I don't too often get it in on that level. Usually by the time they come to me, they've already settled all that.
Yeah.
And as I've said, sometimes the smallest assignment I've ever gotten at the marketing agency was one word.
Yeah.
I was asked to come up with one word to describe this product that the client was putting out. They already had, it was like a cabinet. They already had the main one, and now they were making a smaller one, but they didn't want to call it a mini. So they wanted me to come up with some other word. And the word I came up with was slim.
Okay.
Now, as it turns out, they didn't like that word. They called it something else.
Yeah, they did not go with it.
But, I thought, well, you want one word. There's a word. I thought it was a good word, but... and then, other assignments I have might be a couple of thousand words.
Right.
So I don't get too many of those. It's usually more in the range of maybe a sentence or two, like a Facebook post, or, maybe 500, 700 words.
Okay. It's going to be hard not to be repeating yourself. You've been doing it for...
Well, something like that might be something for, an annual report or some website copy or, something like that.
Right.
One of the longer things.
Well, you are a funny man with a way with your words. I know you have 2 books that are out right now. I watched the.
Right.
I have not had a chance to read, but I watched the preview, and whatever music you're using, I love. It's definitely it grabbed my attention, and I had me laughing before anything even started happening in the video, and before I even saw the name of the book. It's
okay.
It's very catchy. I don't know what beat or what tune you have playing there.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the music in the background.
Correct.
Yeah, I have on occasion played music myself for videos that I put together, but that was something I found on. I'd love to say that I scoured the earth for that tune, or that I wrote it myself, but I did find it on a website that provides free music for videos.
The fact you found it and it worked. So
yeah, there you go. There you go. That's what counts.
Well, that's what most of marketing is you're finding something else, massaging it, and making it yours, right?
There you go. That's true. That's true.
So I know one of the names of your books is Tasmanian Tigers, True Love, and Other Elusive Things, 5, 10, 20-minute reads.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what is this
And
book?
The other one, that's the second book. That's the one that came out in December.
Oh, okay.
The first one is called Lion Taming, Dating, and Other Dangerous Endeavors.
Okay. So what are these books
I
about?
thought about writing a third book and putting something about bears in the title, so I'd have lions, tigers, and bears. But I'm not actually doing that. Maybe someday.
I think you need to now. That's it feels like an Elon Musk thing to do with the TES and LNA, with the sexy, how he names his cars. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So what are these books about?
Well, they're both short story collections.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is built around a theme of how far would you go to get the thing you really desire most in life? So all the books have something to do with that, whether it's a job or it's, the girl of your dreams or the guy of your dreams or whatever that might be. Or maybe it's something more esoteric like truth. But so all the ones in the first book are kind of built around that theme. And then the second book, when I was out promoting the first book and meeting with readers and whatnot, I would hear from readers, I like to read, but I just have such a hard time finding the time anymore. Oh, yeah. People that are busy with work or busy moms or whomever. Mm-hmm. And so I came up with this idea that, let's write a book where when you pick it up, you know how long it's going to take you to read that story. Okay. If you've got 5 minutes, read a 5-minute story. If you've got 10 minutes, read a 10-minute story. If you got 20 minutes, read a 20-minute story. So 15 stories, and it's organized in 5 pods like that, if you want to say that. Each one has a 5, a 10, and a 20-minute story.
Okay.
So that's kind of the theme of that book.
Okay.
And there's a variety of different kinds of stories in them. A lot of them are a little bit on the Twilight Zone side, or they have kind of a twist ending, sort of an O. Henry kind of ending to them.
Okay. All right.
I have one story in the new book that all the dialogue is written in the form of palindromes, so they're the same front and back.
Okay. How long
it's
did
kind
that
of a
take
follow-up to the first book. I did a story where I built the whole thing around not song lyrics, but misheard song lyrics.
Okay.
There's a bathroom on the right, count the headlights on the highway, all that sort of stuff,
Oh yeah. Those are always, that's always fun.
In the new book, I followed up with the palindromes.
Okay. How long did that take you? That's got to be
the palindrome story?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to claim that I actually wrote all of those. I didn't. I found them on the internet. And it's a little bit like marketing that way. It's taking those and then fitting them into a story.
Right.
That's going to make some sort of sense. And that one didn't take me very long. I think that's a 10-minute read. So I probably wrote that in a few hours.
Okay. All right, you gotta start taking credit.
That was a lot of fun to write.
You gotta start taking credit for what you do. It's just to find and scour the internet for the gems. It's well, that's
talent. True. I did do that. Yes. We threw out all the ones that were junk, and I just used the best ones. But seriously though, when going through and reading for those, you have to have some feel for when you see something like that. Did Hannah see bees? Hannah did. You see that and you think, okay, how could I use that in a story?
Right.
And you start seeing a few of them and you start writing the story in your head as you go along. How am I going to take all these various things and put them together in some sort of narrative? What's the story going to be about? And then once you get that accomplished, why then you're on your way,
Right. Right. Well, it takes a talent. I mean, you've built these talents over the years, working as a newspaperman and then working as a copywriter. And most of us look at the internet and surf it all day, and it's just a black hole of swallowing us. We don't pull things from it.
Well, certainly when you're doing an interview with somebody, and I'm sure you know this, when you're doing an interview with somebody, you develop an ear for a quote. And when somebody says something, you think to yourself, oh, that's a good quote. And if you're lucky, somebody says something and you say to yourself, that's my lead,
Right.
And hopefully, before you even get back to the office, what your lead is going to be. That's one of those skills you develop over the years. And the same thing for when you're out there doing something like looking for palindromes, or even just when you're having a conversation with someone and they mention something and you think that would be a good idea for a story,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about your family. My family had this habit that, this is going to sound a little morbid, but every time somebody passed away, pretty soon there would be these garbage sacks full of clothes floating around the family. Here's all of Bob's stuff that's still good. It's too good to throw out.
Oh, no.
Somebody needs to use this, and you'd go and visit a relative, like I'd go and visit my mother and she'd say, well, Uncle Myron's father died and there's this good stuff. And actually I do have a nice top coat in my closet that was Uncle Myron's father. So I appreciate that. But I
could just imagine.
But, frequently it would be these things that, this isn't even my size. I can't remotely wear this. This guy was 4'2". I can't wear his clothes. It's too good to throw out, my mother would say. So my wife and I were talking about this one day, and and I said something about dead man's. I think I started off. I said dead man's pants. Some dead man's pants that somebody's trying to foist off onto you, and I said, that would be a good idea for a story. When I sat down to write it, I decided shoes would be better. So I do have a story in the current book called Dead Man's Shoes.
Okay, I like stand up and comedy, and I could see a whole routine based around what you just told me. I mean, that's
Well, feel free to use that. I would be flattered.
Okay, thank you. That's hilarious. I could just picture somebody passes and it's immediate excitement that there's going to be this bag going around of new clothes, new goodies.
Yeah. I didn't find a whole lot in any of those sacks that really worked for me, to be honest with you. But
no,
I did snag that top coat, and I'm still wearing that on occasion.
There's still people and there's still time, right? So
I'm afraid I'm getting to the age where, I'm getting into the upper echelon. So someday it'll be my things that are being passed around.
Maybe you should prepare an ice bag now that's more useful to people than the bags that have gotten passed to you.
I should be getting prepared. Yeah.
You want people to have a nice bag when you pass away.
There you go. Maybe even spring for a box. That would be nice.
It would change things up. People wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, that would be classy. A plastic tote with my old clothes in it.
There you go. See, that's hilarious. So where can people find more about you and more about the books?
Well, I do have a website. It's rjpostauthor.com.
Okay.
And they can find more information about both of the books there. And also, I'm on Facebook under RJ Post Author. I'm on YouTube, RJ Post Author. And both of the books are available on Amazon. So they're available in paperback and ebook. Okay. So, and if people are members of Kindle Unlimited, they can read for free. Oh. So that's good.
Perfect. How does that work? Do you get something every time somebody decides to read it, even though it's free? I guess people paying a service. So
yes. Basically, you get paid by it's a complicated formula they use. I know you're shocked. It's Amazon and it's complicated. But I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me too much.
No.
But they have this kind of a pool of money every month. I don't know how that happens. But then it's divided up based on how many page reads you get.
Okay.
So, if somebody got on Kindle Unlimited and they read half my book, I would get a little something for every page they read.
Gotcha.
As opposed to if they actually buy either the ebook or the paperback. If they buy the ebook, that's $3.99. The paperback's $8.99. So I get a portion of that.
Gotcha. That makes more sense.
And Amazon gets their cut.
Right. It just sounds like the all you can read one is more. It sounds like a Spotify type of deal or Pandora for music, where you're getting probably pennies on the page. Somebody opens it up and.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to get rich. I haven't picked out my Lamborghini yet.
Right.
But really, for me, what the thing is with writing is I feel like for every story that's told, there is someone that needs to read it.
Gotcha.
There's something in that story that's going to resonate with them. And even if all they take from that is, hey, somebody else knows how I feel.
Right.
There's somebody out there that needs to read that. So my goal really is just to get it out to as many people as I can. So they have that opportunity.
I completely understand. I have a lot of creative ventures right now, and none of them am I in it for the money. They're all except for my main job, but all the rest are, to put it out there. I feel like I connect with people, and it's something I want to share. So I completely get that. Yeah.
Well, if that big movie deal comes my way, I won't be a snob about it, but I'm not going to hold my breath either.
Yeah, I'm right there.
We'll be happy with making people happy.
I'm right there with you. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
It's been great talking to you.
Yes, thank you very much.